Dear brothers and sisters, respected elders, just because before I ascended the minbar, somebody sent a message saying that one of the musallin, one of our brothers here, his sister-in-law is on her deathbed, and for us to make dua for her. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to either give her complete shifa, or if it is her time to go, then take her completely sinless. And the same for all our brothers and sisters, and the same for us all individually here in our time of death. But it got me thinking, what will my time of death be like? What will yours be like? Who knows this question? We all want to know the answer to this question, that Allah gives us a good death, a smooth, peaceful death. I've seen a smooth, peaceful death in front of my eyes. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala regularly, give me that type of, inshallah, smooth, peaceful death in all of us. A death of a person who is reciting some dhikr on his tongue. Death of the person who is used to salah so much that his finger is just like this on his lap, out of being used to declaring the shahada of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But then I think, where is that person now? That person who died a few years ago, he's in his grave. What does he have with him? Only his deeds that he took. Only the seeds that he planted in this life, that he sent forward. Where's his money? It's here now. Where's his wealth gone? It's here. Where are the properties that he amassed? He left them behind. Where are his children? Where are his children? Where will your children, my children be when we're in our graves? When they lower us into our graves, maybe they'll shed a tear, maybe they'll, inshallah, they'll make dua for us, they'll pray our janazah correctly, they'll pay off all our debts. They'll make dua for us, as long as they're alive, inshallah. But what about their children? Maybe they'll remember their grandparents. They'll remember, oh, my grandfather, he used to be a nice man, he taught me this, he taught me that. I'll make dua for him every now and then. If somebody's making dua, they'll say Ameen. Okay, he'll remember us. My grandson, maybe, I don't have one yet, but inshallah when I do, my grandchildren, they'll remember me in my dua, their du'as, inshallah. But what about their children? What about their children? Just think, how many times have we made dua for our great-grandparents, for example? We don't even know their names probably. What will we have then? After maybe 100 years, 200 years of being in the ground. This is why we need to think now, dear brothers and sisters, while we're alive, of our long-term plans in the grave. And the reason why I was thinking about this is because today's topic I wanted us to think about was the upcoming elections. And what does this have to do with our life in the grave? Do you know that Spain, the south of Spain, Al-Andalus, was under Muslim control and governance for almost 800 years? But where are the signs of Islam there now? Some buildings. Where are the people, the long lines, the generations and generations of people who lived and died and were buried there? Who's making dua for them now? Where are their descendants? Many of them were forced to convert out of Islam. This is an example of what can happen to a strong, thriving Islamic civilization. Banu Umayyah, the Khilafah of Banu Umayyah in Al-Andalus. But what about our future generations? Will there be any signs of Islam left in this area that we live and call home today? In 100 years, in 200 years, in 500 years? Will our legacies, the mosques that we're building, that we're paying money for, the organizations, the infrastructure, the Islamic schools that we're paying for, thinking that it's going to earn me rewards later on in my grave, will they even be here in 100, 200, 300 years? Or will they be like the churches? Will they be like beautiful buildings that are open for tourism? Like in Al-Andalus. What's the difference? What's the key? Allahu A'lam, Allah knows the answer to such a big question, but one key ingredient for us to prepare for that time is the answer to this question. Do you feel like you belong here? Think about this question. Do you feel like you belong here? Or do you feel like you are a guest here in somebody else's country? And that one day I'm going to go back home. Many of us might feel this, and I don't blame you. Especially if you were born outside. Half of the Muslim community in the UK was born overseas, as the statistics say. And I understand, if we were born overseas and we came, we feel like we're a guest sometimes. We feel like my home is still in another country. And fair enough, Allah created this whole world and all of it belongs to Allah. Whether you regard there as home or here as home or wherever as home. But what about your children? Where do they regard as home? What about their children? Chances are they will regard this. I regard this as my home. The UK, it has its issues. It has its problems. But this is my home. And if you are not planning to move out of the UK anytime soon, if you were born here, you were raised here, you feel at home here, then it's very important for you to reinforce that to yourself and your children, that this is where you belong. Why? Because then we will plant roots. Then we will care about who is our MP, who is our local councillor, who is our Prime Minister, who are the governing parties here. Then we will care about the long-term success, inshallah, of the Muslim community in this part of the world. Ask yourself this question: do I feel I belong here? Another question we need to ask ourselves is, what is my purpose of being here? Why am I here? Just to make money? There's nothing wrong with making money in a halal way. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put us on this globe for a noble purpose. وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. Remember when your Lord said to His angels, I am going to create a steward on the earth, my representative on the earth. This is our noble purpose of creation for this earth, dear brothers and sisters and respected elders. We are not like our Christian friends, the Christian tradition which regards this earth as some kind of punishment. No, this earth is what Allah intended to send Adam alayhi salam and his progeny to. We have an obligation towards this earth, towards the people on this earth, towards the animals, towards the environment. It's in the news with Extinction Rebellion. Where are the Muslims? Where are we in campaigning for preserving the quality of the earth's natural resources and our ability to survive as a species? We were put here as stewards on the earth. Allah made you a leader, each and every one of you a leader. Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat linnas. You are the best nation raised up for mankind. For mankind. Why? Because of the color of your skin? Because of your DNA, the blood running through your veins? No. تَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ. Because you enjoin what is good, you forbid what is evil, and you have iman in Allah. Everywhere Muslims are, they should be active in making that place a better place. Everywhere Muslims are, everywhere, anywhere, even if you're coming somewhere on a holiday for a few days, and you have the opportunity to increase khair, increase good, and decrease harm, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to do that. That is what the Sharia is telling you and me. So even if we don't feel this is our home, but we should, if we intend to remain here and we live here, we should feel this is our home. Despite that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put you here, and you and I have an obligation to take any opportunity we can to increase good and decrease harm. That goes across the board. For if you see something bad happening on the street, if you see somebody getting mugged, don't just walk past. If you see someone in something harmful on the road, don't just drive past. You as a Muslim, me as a Muslim, I have an obligation to fulfill what the Prophet ﷺ called the rights of the road. The road even has rights in Islam. That you don't block it. You don't walk together and block the pavement for other people. You don't, you move something harmful from the road, and you enjoin the good and forbid the evil. These are 3 rights of the road the Prophet ﷺ told us. Everywhere Muslim is, he or she has to do certain things, has to fulfill certain rights of those creatures. And this is one of the opportunities that we have now before us, dear brothers and sisters. The upcoming general elections. I'm not going to stand here and tell you who to vote for. Firstly, that's not a good idea anyway. We Muslims, we have to be more mature in terms of our voting, our political participation. Voting is just a tiny, small part of it. But organize hustings. Make sure the campaigners, make sure the candidates campaigning for your vote, they know that these Muslims here, they're watching me, they're holding me to account. How do I act? How do I vote? If the Muslims say they don't care about us, they're going to do whatever they want. Anyone, not just Muslims. They say the number one reason for people failing to turn out on polling day is apathy. Or them feeling, what's the point? No Muslim should feel this. Because if you feel that my vote's not going to make any difference, my voice isn't going to make any difference, my letter to my MP is not going to make any difference, then you're guaranteed to make no difference. They will ignore you. They will ignore you. But if you write a letter to your MP, for example, if you go and visit them in person and say, these are the issues I care about and I'm worried about, they know, they have their internal arithmetic. They say, if somebody writes a letter, then I know about 4 other people have that same issue. If somebody feels strongly about something enough to come in and visit me, they'll know 10 other people. They'll calculate 10 people have that issue. What if 100 of us went to our MP and said, these are the issues that are important for us? What are you going to do about the NHS? What are you going to do about the welfare state? What are you going to do about policing and crime? What are you going to do about Brexit? What are you going to do about all of these things that are important for you and me? If we don't speak up, if we don't speak to them and get our voices heard, then we can't complain when policies are passed against us. Policies are passed that are systemically and institutionally disadvantaging us and our children. And that's when I want us to think and remember, what will my life be like in the grave? If I didn't plant these seeds now and preserve the iman of the next generation and preserve our ability to, for example, to teach Islam to our children, to have Muslim schools, Islamic schools, to have some of our rights, to practice Islam enshrined in the law, not just to survive but to thrive as a community. If we don't plant these seeds now, then who's to say in 200 years, 300 years, your and my progeny will not be atheists or agnostics. They'll think, I remember something called Islam, our great-grandfathers used to practice. I don't know what I am today. I'm not scaremongering. This has happened and will happen unless we do something and we have the tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We need to act, dear brothers and sisters, wherever we are. If we want to be considered the best ummah, we have to act. It's not just sitting around saying, yes, I'm part of the best ummah, the Jannah will call my name. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put us here for a test. I want us to go over some brief, practical doubts that some people might have and practical steps of what we can do in the next khutbah. Hada wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barik ala nabina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. I think it was in the 1960s when Kitty Genevieve, a nurse, was followed home from work, brutally assaulted and killed. The investigators, they found that dozens of people saw someone following her, saw her screaming. Some of them even told the guy to get away from her. but not one of them called the police. Why? This is something that we have to think about deeply, brothers and sisters. This is a famous case, but it highlights a human feature of our human nature Allah has given us as a test. Those people weren't evil. They didn't want her to suffer, but they all suffered from one very human problem, and that was the bystander effect. Because everyone saw this is such a big thing, such a terrible thing that's happening, everyone thought somebody else will call the police. Everyone thought somebody else will deal with this problem. This is a clear and obvious problem. Obviously somebody will deal with it. And if everyone is thinking like that, then nobody will act. And dhulm will perpetuate. This is the answer to the doubt, what can I do? I'm just one person. This is what many of us, shaitan comes to us. I'm just one person, what can I do? What can one little vote, one little X on a ballot paper do? I'm just one person. If everyone thought like this, then every tyrant on earth would just carry on having a free reign. Even in democratic countries. Did you know in the last election, more people did not vote than the votes that the party that won got? I'll say that again. In the last election, more people did not vote than the winning party's votes. I.e., had they voted, they would have gotten a huge impact on where the election went. And this election now is being touted as an election of a generation. For many reasons. It could go either way. No party had a majority just before the election, for example. Now, for the first time in our generation at least, we have genuine different parties with different, so radically different policies and outlooks. This is the election of a generation. Did you know, I was speaking to some brothers involved in this, in researching this. There are 80 constituencies, 80, where Muslims, just Muslims, the Muslim electorate has a significant sway on the vote. Meaning, if the Muslims got together in those 80 constituencies, even though we're just 5% of the population, but because we're spread out in small little concentrated groups, 80 constituencies the Muslims have, the Muslim vote has a significant impact potentially. And 50 constituencies where the Muslims have a number more than the actual swing in the last generation, the margin in the last general election. What does that mean? It means if the Muslims got together and united in those areas, they could choose who the MP is. In summary. So don't tell me what can I do. By yourself, yes, you can't do anything. If one person is clapping, for example, 1,000,000 times, it's not going to do anything. But if 1,000,000 of us clap at once, the roof will come down. This is our power in numbers. This is our power as Muslims, as a community. I'm not going to tell you, don't vote for this person, vote for that person. No, we all have brains. We all should research and go and meet the people who are coming for our vote, who are campaigning. We have an obligation, firstly to Allah, then for the people in the next generations. They will ask, what did you do, oh grandfather, to help me 100 years, 200 years, in terms of my ability to earn a living, halal living, my ability from so many things, from halal meat. The niqab bans are happening all over, and hijab bans happening all over Western Europe now. Are we thinking, are we just sleepwalking that this couldn't happen in this country? It will happen if we are sleeping. But if we wake up and we feel that we belong here and we make our voices heard, then we'll be a force to be reckoned with. No one can ignore the Muslim vote in the future then, if we are active. No party can ignore us. And we're not calling for something bad. We're calling for our rights that we already have. If you feel that you belong here, you won't feel ashamed to ask for your rights. If we feel that we belong here, we won't feel ashamed to ask for our rights. These are our rights, constitutionally enshrined in this country. We should pay money for people to do this research. We should encourage people to learn and teach Muslims their rights in this country. What can we do? Number one, we can, as soon as we finish Jum'ah, go and register to vote. It's very easy, you can just Google it. The government website, make sure we're registered to vote. Number two, and the deadline for registration is 26th of November. It's a week from Tuesday. Make sure we're registered to vote. Our family members, our women folk, our children if they're over 18. Number two, organize as communities, hustings. Organize hustings. Let the candidates come and meet you and recognize you and know that you're going to be watching them. And know that you have the power to seat or unseat them. Elections are a very tiny part of the political activism that we need in our community. But they are very crucial. The election is just the beginning. The campaign is just the beginning. Then we should have long-term relationships with these people. If you have an issue, you can go and meet your MP. You can hold them to account. You can follow them. Why did you vote this way? Why didn't you vote that way? We need to become united as a community, dear brothers and sisters. We have a lot of power. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving this to us as a test. As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever sees a munkar amongst you, let him change it with his hand. If he's unable to, let him change it with his tongue. And if he's unable to, let him change it with his heart. And that's the weakest of iman. But which one of us is unable to at least try to change something with our hand or with our tongue speaking out against something? Don't say, I was just one person. Don't say, what can I do? I'm just one person. Don't say they won't listen to me. Because if you think that, then they won't listen to you. But instead think, what will I say before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That is my primary concern. If we, with sincerity, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance, get involved in this domain, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah will guide us to what is best. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive our shortcomings and to preserve our iman and the iman of the later generations. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the best in this dunya and the best in the akhirah. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ وَاعْفُ عَنَّا وَاغْفِرْ لَنَا وَارْحَمْنَا أَنْتَ مَوْلَانَا فَانصُرْنَا عَلَى الْقَوْمِ الْكَافِرِينَ وَصَلَّى اللَّهُ وَسَلَّمَ وَبَارَكَ عَلَى نَبِيِّنَا مُحَمَّدٍ وَعَلَى آلِهِ وَصَحْبِهِ أَجْمَعِينَ وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ.